I just want to pull something up here. So right, if anybody wants to join, you know, just jump into the training room. I just want to pull up both the Renegade. So we're going to be doing this. I'm going to play, you guys can request tanks too if you'd like. Not necessarily for the training room, but I'll probably play the recon mode a little bit. So I think that's up and live. Okay, anyway, let's jump into things here. What do I got here? 90 millimeters. Okay. Okay, so it's not live then. Alright, well never mind then. Maybe I won't really be doing tank requests. I don't know, maybe I will take tank requests though, just if I pause my missions. Just, you know, I'm sure people are going to want to request tanks that they want to see played, so maybe I'll just do that for tonight then. In any event though, so if you guys could, just so I can go over the basics here, just drive like to the center and I guess turn just so your side faces me essentially. So HE obviously has changed. I've seen, honestly, I'm kind of surprised too. I've seen like some people actually complain that they nerfed Artie after all these years. You know, everybody, you know, it is a nerf to Artie. Yeah, it's a game balance change to where honestly, you know, I'm kind of okay with what they did just because, you know, the change that they did, you know, it did decrease, I guess, its damage potential sometimes, but it still kept the damage potential if you're using the rounds. You have no, that's all good. I know everyone's gonna complain. So in any event though, HE, big change. You know, I've seen some people a little bit confused about HE. So right now, so before I start shooting here, you know, just because I'm sure that a few more people are gonna pop in, which thanks guys for popping in here, you know, to help. It's not exactly fun shooting myself. So what they did is the first common test server with HE on the public test, they had it to where, you know, basically it functioned like an AP shell. And, you know, when you're shooting a target, it actually took the, you know, it could penetrate, didn't lose penetration, you know, like a heat shell between space armor, but it took the effective armor of penetrating, you know, whatever, and reduced, you know, basically reduce that amount. What I just kind of tested, you know, shooting, I was shooting a E75, you know, with a Badger, because it has just enough penetration to go through the side armor, but not enough to go through if it's angled. Then the second test, what they did is they actually removed the effective armor, and it just went off of nominal armor thickness. What they did on that test is any space armor, they tripled the nominal armor thickness and deducted that basically from the amount, you know, for the penetration. It didn't take effective armor. What they have on the live server is kind of a combination of both. So like right now, the M54 Renegade here with Randall, like it has 76 millimeters of side armor, tracks add another 20 millimeters. My HE round here has 90 millimeters of pen, so shooting it here in the side, I just want to get around the bushes here. So I should be able to penetrate the track here and still cause a pretty good amount of damage to the side armor, because it's not super thick behind it. So it still bleeds through. I'm not able to penetrate though. And like in the previous, so like me hitting here would actually cause damage back here, and it would be a lot more than the 429. Meanwhile, so with Big Easy here, so having more side armor, this is a pretty big change here. So a lot of people are used to shooting just basically right there. Cause 100 damage now because you're not splashing the engine deck. And so side scraping, so the Type 5 has a lot of problems too. And, you know, this tank did get a little bit of a buff, you know, with these changes, and they gave it an AP shell, which is pretty nice. I see people like, oh my god, they buffed the Type 5 Heavy. Like, the Type 5 Heavy utterly sucked before this patch. At least it has a little bit going for it now. So, like, shooting the side armor, which is fairly thick, I'm causing like 168 damage here, whereas before I'd be causing like 300-400 damage just plopping the side of a Type 5. And say if I'm just like running and gunning and taking a really bad shot and I hit him down there, I'm not causing any damage now. However, say if you're caught in a pinch, you know, with HE, and this is where, like, you know, they really nerf just like stupid HE shots, you know, that you're not aiming, you're not thinking about where you're aiming and stuff. You know, say if I'm able to flank him running around here, this should be the thinnest armor for me. I cause a bit more damage essentially. And then say if I go over here, which I'm not sure, I don't know the exact value for the track and stuff. Say if I'm basically shooting here almost side on, I'm able to actually penetrate the track and go a little bit through the side armor, which is still pretty thick. And then going over back to Randall here, which if you want to shoot Randall, I mean, Big Easy doesn't have any ammo, but if you want to shoot, it doesn't, you know, it doesn't matter. You know, if you want to test things. So like shooting the track here, I'm still causing a good amount of damage because I'm bleeding through, so what was it, 25 millimeters? No, 20 millimeters. So that's deducting 60 millimeters of basically armor off of the 90. So I'm still left with 30 millimeters of penetration against the 76 millimeters side armor plus, you know, whatever angles on it. And it still has 950 damage to kind of bleed off. So that's where you're still causing, so 519 damage here on, you know, basically like the side here. However, compared to before, it really depended on where you hit. Like before, you know, hitting here, it's kind of a crapshoot to where for like targets that don't have like a lot of side armor or rear armor and like have really thin bits of armor, you can actually get a little bit more out of HE, but really only if you're shooting like those thin pieces. You can't just use HE willy-nilly now and like chuck around. Let's try to shoot him right there. Like that's not causing your 400 plus damage, you know, just because you happen to hit him here and it's causing the damage down in his engine deck. So like I like the change that they did with it, to where a lot of people were like, oh well, you know, I can't just, oh my god, and like 500 damage, you can't do that anymore. You know, you actually have to think a little bit about where you're hitting. So like if you come across a Type 5 from the front here, you know, instead of just randomly taking a shot and, you know, just shooting him right in the front here, you're still causing some damage. You know, you're causing basically internal module damage and stuff, but you're not hitting them for as, you know, as much, you know, HP, you know, just for randomly lobbing shots. So like looking at the Type 5, the thinnest piece of armor I could hit from the front, so I guess technically, but this is where it is angled, would be on that roof still. So I just hit him on the roof for 273, and basing off of this, so that's because, so it's only 90 millimeters thick, and as far as the angle, I'm not exactly sure the angle I'm hitting him at. However, so HE doesn't ricochet, it doesn't bounce, it doesn't overmatch. So what you're seeing here is, so I'm just going with a rough value here. So hitting him for 273, and this is a really steep angle, I'm causing 255 damage. Just looking at tanks.gg and like roughly basing, you know, what the effective armor, it's got about, so it's like an 86-degree angle-ish, so 570 millimeter plus effective armor. However, you know, whatever it is in the game here, you know, it's deducting that effective armor off of my HE damage, essentially. So you're still able to cause damage to, and like right here is kind of a thinner part, but it is basically, it is thicker, essentially, armor. And it's really, you have to kind of think about where you're shooting HE. It's not just the nominal thickness anymore. Well, somebody's saying that they bounced. So some people might see the screen, or which, thank you, old goat. I appreciate that. Well, this is just the first battle. So some people might see, so I actually, all right, so that actually penned there and there's nothing behind it. Let's hit, because technically, so HE you can't bounce, from my understanding. You can basically not penetrate a screen, so it doesn't ricochet or anything. Penetrate it again. So some pieces of mantlets do have only one layer of armor. I'm trying to remember, so I should just hit the gun here. Even though the gun probably doesn't have any, this will be a better example here. So not penetrate it, because there's multiple layers here, essentially. Whereas some mantlets essentially only have one layer. Which I guess, I don't know, we have to cap maybe? I don't know. But yeah, if anybody wants to pop in, like, we're just going to be shooting HE. You guys, you know, feel free, you know, hopefully Big Easy remembers ammo next time. You know, shoot me, we can shoot each other. If anyone has any questions about HE, let me know, because I'll happily answer them. But, you know, there's just a, you know, there's a big misconception, you know, I feel like. So, like, right now, my best chance for damage for him is right about there, essentially. And for, so Randall here, the worst spot for me to shoot HE, you know, say if I'm just like running and gunning and, like, you know, in the previous you just click and point, so a lot of people are gonna get mad because, oh my god, I didn't cause any damage, what the hell, you nerfed my 60 TP, wargaming, you're the worst ever. No, you just can't freaking aim, like, you can't just do that anymore. So say if the M54 Renegades like hold down, where are you gonna want to shoot him, like in the turret? I don't know. Let's pop him right there. Alright, 178. That's not bad for not being able to penetrate somebody. Before, that would be 4+100 damage because it would bleed through to the very back of his turret. And we'll just finish it off so we can get into the next battle. So, you know, the article they have really explained it very well. Which, anybody popping in here, you know, just jump into any tank, you know, you want. It explained it really well. So basically, before, when you hit a piece of armor, which it might be easier for me just to pop the whatchamajig up. Which, why don't I switch to something? I don't know what I want to switch into. Anybody have any suggestions? So, like, that was a high caliber HE round. Maybe I'll go something smaller? Like lower caliber, maybe? Or, I don't know. I feel like the Progetto has a decent one. Yeah, so, like, I guess I could pop into, like, the FV. Please don't shoot me too hard. Or let me see what tanks they're bringing first. E100, Renegade. Alright, Istanbul, I'm gonna throw you on my team. Thanks, old goat. Yeah, like, honestly, so their videos are really good. So the FV in a way too, and the KV, you should, I always carried some AP, but it is actually more important to carry, you know, some AP now, because your Hessian HE just isn't, you know, you do have to actually aim with it. And they did rework the intuition skill to kind of compensate for some of these tanks, and even Artie with swapping shells to make it a little bit easier. So that's where, or why don't I throw, we'll do this. 2 tier 10s, a tier 10 and tier 8. You know, it's just not de facto click, point, shoot, kill, you know? Like that's kind of what I like about the changes. Like, obviously it is a change, it's a game mechanic change, and it's scary, you know, for some people. You know, it is a big change to where, is it better, is it worse? Like, everyone always has like knee-jerk reactions, you know, and saying everything's terrible and wargaming destroyed their game and blah blah blah. You know, people are entitled basically to do that. Doesn't mean that they're right, doesn't mean, you know, that wargaming's the worst, it's just, it's different. Istanbul is sorry, yeah. But if I can, so the main change, hey WoT chick, nice to see you. We're testing out, just going over some HE changes, because I know some people are a little confused about them. We just did one battle. So let's see, so for Big Easy here, and this is where, so the FV, I'm trying to figure out, so the worst spot for me to shoot him is in his mantlet. Second worst spot is going to be in his, and I don't want to just knock him out. Second worst spot is going to basically be in the upper glacis. So popping him here, 414 damage. And again, I don't want to kill Big Easy just right in the get-go. How much? 1700 damage. So with HE now, I could try to penetrate him in the lower glacis. I could penetrate him basically into the lower glacis. I can pen that as well. It's not a 100% chance, as you see here, like it's green, yellow. So a lot of people, so head on here, and this is where, so let's see here. If I hit him right about here, which my accuracy is not great. I didn't hit any armor there, so I guess missed. Which I'm gonna shoot you guys too, but feel free to shoot me as long as you're not like gonna kill me. I don't want to, like, you know, knock anybody out and just have them sit here. So this one, this shot here, I'm trying not to hit the lower glacis. 541 here, because I'm penetrating the track, which 40 millimeters of armor. It is angled, so it's more than that. However, I'm hitting about 700-ish. So it's between 700 and like 900 millimeters of effective armor I was hitting there. And this is where, like, for the FV, it's a pretty big adjustment. So, like, people just randomly, you know, point and click. Again, like, you can't just randomly point and click. Like, that shot before, like, how many people, you know, playing, like, tier 8, tier 9, tier 10, or just, like, in general, you come across a derp tank and it just randomly throws its gun your way. As long as it hits you, like, that would have most likely caused near 800 plus damage hitting that renegade, because the old HE, essentially, whenever it comes into contact, it drew basically a big sphere, like a big ball, and encompassed basically, you know, that entire area, and it picks the weakest area, and then it applies damage and a crap load of module damage inside. The new system applies the penetration, you know, and it can penetrate that specific area, that layers of armor. And then from there, it draws that ball and applies module damage. So you're still causing module damage in that specific area, similar to the, you know, basically the old system, but, you know, localized there, and it's causing the penetration there instead of seeking out, you know, the weakest area. So like the TL1 LPC here, or maybe So like this is the biggest change, like, and I've showed this for a few shots. I'm hoping I don't hit you, isn't that what? No, so like that's the biggest change. Like this shot before, I would have most likely killed him, just randomly connecting, because the splash radius on this is 5 meters, so most likely that would have connected with this area here, and it would have caused a massive amount of damage and killed him. When it comes to the E100 here, so this is where I want to make sure I don't pen all the way. So I've got about 215 millimeters of arm, or 215 millimeters of pen. So let me see if I can pull this off without shooting. So you do have this indicator here. So right now, red, and it should, or that's orange. Okay, maybe I'm not exactly on the side. So the indicator, like it isn't perfect, obviously. So right now I can pen the side of the turret because my penetration 230 is higher than, it's about, I think 170-ish, probably like 180 with a little bit of angle. Going down here, so can't pen here, can't pen here, can't pen here. However, so it does turn a slightly darker shade of red here. Orange, orange, because technically this is the strongest part, at least, you know, basing it off of tanks.gg, because the track armor overlaps with the space armor. Right up here is just side armor for the most part, and down here's the track with no space armor. But so it is a pretty huge change, but you're still able to, so like, let's see, we have the M54. Okay, like before, like with, you know, this is where derp tanks, a lot of people were like, they're ruined. Okay, so the FV prior, you know, shooting anything in the track just completely ruined like your chances of actually doing meaningful damage, especially with like wheeled tanks and stuff. Now, let's see. So that's a pretty good amount of damage there. I didn't penetrate because, so I'm hitting, it was 20 millimeters. They have a 3x multiplier in space armor. So now it's 60 millimeters. Plus you have the effective armor that I'm hitting. So, you know, that's taking 60 millimeters, I believe, right off the bat. And whatever effective armor. So it's basically negating my penetration. It's well over 230 millimeters of effective. However, it still is passing through this space armor screen and causing damage behind it. So for tanks like the Renegade that have 76 millimeters of armor, you're still causing a good amount of damage, like 900 with the FE. That's a crap load of damage. However, shooting like a light tank, you know, unless you're hitting like extreme angles here against a light, you still might not pen, but the likelihood of penning the 20 millimeters and stuff, you know, that most light tanks have is pretty high, so you're going to be causing a fair amount of damage, whereas before, like, you're hitting that EBR wheel and it's doing jack shit. But a lot of people are obviously going to be mad at shots like that, like, oh my god, I caused 296, you know, damage, you know, against the E100 with my huge Hesh round. Like, oh my god, screw you, Wargaming. I don't have any AP loaded here. Maybe you should load a frickin' AP round and not just, you know, randomly chuck it to where, you know, I could pen him with Hesh in the lower glacis if he doesn't angle. So like right now he's angled pretty well, which I didn't hit the armor there. However, using an AP round, you know, I'm probably going to cause more damage sometimes against armored tanks if I'm not able to land, so on like an E100 in that police bar, or if I can't get a clean shot in a lower glacis, because you can penetrate it front on. So that's where it's kind of like a buff and a nerf, essentially. But it's different, you know, it's a game mechanic change. So that's where, you know, a lot of people are obviously upset. But it's a game mechanic change, which honestly, I feel like there's a lot more depth at it in this than the previous system, you know. Yeah, like Intuition, they buffed that essentially to kind of help with some of the derp tanks, already and stuff for switching rounds. And also, you know, there's obviously the new arty perk, which, like, personally, so like before, like my FV, I carried 5 AP, and the rest, you know, I basically carried the rest with. Oh, he's dead. Yeah, I guess we can kill each other. So like E100 here, I'm just trying to figure out like the worst spot for me to shoot him, which would basically be the mantlet. The arty missions and stuff, guys, like they're changing by the next patch. That's how they always do them. They basically, whenever they change game mechanics and stuff, they give it a patch and then they basically change afterwards. They should become a lot easier. So, my opinion on why they didn't give people free resets for their commanders, which honestly I personally would have appreciated, because that's what they've always done in the past when they change stuff, is because we're going to get Crew 2.0 probably next patch. That's my only guess. So that way I feel like the backlash, because one of the biggest like negative factors of the new crew system is them having to basically, you know, reset everybody, and then, you know, everyone has to repick all their skills. I feel like the reason why they, you know, didn't you know, go along with that with this is because imagine them resetting everybody's skill, you know, now, and then basically come next patch, which does somebody have an EBR maybe? Which, thanks, Istanbul. Did you mean to drop out? If anybody wants to come in, I'm gonna probably do one more battle here. They've already confirmed that they're changing the personal missions. They do every single time, but they always do it the patch after the change. So, all right, well, yeah, if you don't mind, or I'll pop you over there. But yeah, they always do it the patch afterwards. Because personal missions, like I've mentioned a lot, they're based off of like percentages, like how many people can complete them in a certain amount of battles. So they always lag behind about a patch. But in my eyes, though, like I feel like they didn't give people a bunch of resets for commanders is because we're getting Crew 2.0 soon, maybe next patch. Just because, like, to me, that would actually piss me off if they reset my commanders, every one of them. I don't mind like the one-off thing, but then essentially the next go around, which maybe I'll do what, KV2 guys, or maybe I guess I see so many people complaining about the KV2. Maybe I'll do that. If that's acceptable. Yeah, which 26 rounds is fine. But that's where I feel like, you know, that would piss more people off having to redo it twice, you know, than not. I always carried, so I carried 10 AP on my KV2. But yeah, that's where, you know, I know that wasn't always the, I guess, popular thing to do, but I used AP towards later on in battles because it's more reliable. Alright, so we have a KV2 EBR, but you know, it's a change, like, and this is where, like, you know, we've known this is coming for quite some time, and everyone's like, you know, basically freaking out, and it's just, especially like some CCs, like this isn't a surprise. But when it comes to like crew, we're not Crew 2.0. So like the arty perk that they added in, like personally, I don't think I'm gonna train it for anything, just because, yeah, like it, you know, it gives you a heads up that arty's shooting you, but whoop-de-doo. Like the other things they added in, showing you where arty's aiming, the added tracers and stuff, I feel like are, you know, more of a benefit than that. But I feel like with Crew 2.0, they're just going to incorporate that into the 6 cents for all. Huh, there's Ort. Yeah, like personally, I wish they would have done that to begin with. So how much? 900, I think? 910. So trying to hit this EBR is going to be difficult. But yeah, I personally would have liked them to incorporate it just into 6 cents. So this is where like KV2 right now, I've got, what, 86 millimeters of armor or penetration. Oh, look, I caused 460 damage. Some people, so before, would be pissed because like that technically, I guess, could have caused more damage to him in the old system if it would have splashed up here because it would have penned. Whereas, so like trying to shoot Ort here, I don't want to kill him again. So this is where you're still going to see people complaining about, so like EBR, because technically in the old system, me shooting him, so say here, that would have caused damage. Not a lot, but it would have caused some damage. The new system, so like the old system though, like hitting him here wouldn't have caused that much. However, so like trying to hit him here, so this should cause some damage. Oh, nope, I missed this hole because his hole's like shaped like this, like a boat. I'm trying not to penetrate the side. I'm trying to penetrate just the wheels, but not the actual side. So I need to find like the edge of his armor. So like that, I penetrated the wheels, but they're still taking some penetration off with the effective armor. And then this is angled too, taking some penetration off. However, it's still the 910, like this shot here causing 412. In the old system, you had a chance to do like nothing because it would just blow on the side of the, you know, the side of the wheels without causing anything. However, some people might be mad, so like EBR coming at you and saying to KV2, you pop him like that, and oh my god, it says I didn't hit him. Like, what the hell, Wargaming? Screw you. It's because you frickin' missed. Like, you just hit the wheel. So like, there are nuances that people are gonna get frustrated about and complain, where it's mainly just, it's changes, and that's where. So like, let's see here, shooting at like near extreme angle here, and he doesn't have much HP for me to work with. Trying 1 HP there. Oh my god, I just hit that EBR right in the frickin' hole, and I didn't kill him. What the hell, Wargaming? I can't believe it was 1 HP too. You can't blame that. But like, the reason being, so like going up to an EBR here, I shot him literally at like almost a near 90-degree angle on this piece of armor. So the effective armor was probably like, what, it was in the 900s basically. Like any other round, like AP heat, nothing would have penetrated that. Old HE would have killed him. New HE, had I hit him instead of here, had I hit him closer to me, or turret, whatever, I would have killed him 100%. But that's where you actually have to think about where you're shooting. You have to think about where you're shooting tanks now. So like, shooting this KV2 here, I'm trying to think of a spot to where I can't kill him, because he's got about 200. So basically hitting like multiple layers of armor on the mantlet, because it is tough there. But yeah, in any event though, hopefully this helped some of you guys. Thanks for the testing though, guys, because like this is very helpful, like even for me just to brush up on. But like, you can't just randomly, like me shooting the side there, bad. I should have shot him there, because I most likely would have penned him instead of trying to shoot angled side space armor. So they kind of combined the first test and the second test that they did most recently, and they kind of smushed them together. You know, and personally, like, you know, it's a kind of good combination. It hurts people that aren't aiming, which I think we pretty much covered. Yeah, which, thank you. But yeah, thanks guys. That's really helpful. But like, you know, does anybody have any questions about HE that we didn't cover here? But I think, yeah, I think we covered. Well, the RNG thing, like, that's something to where, don't get me wrong, I personally think RNG should be like 15%, not 25. There should still be some RNG. It does have its benefits, but 25% is too much if you ask me. But you know, that's something to where, you know, unfortunately. What other tank did I play? I forget. I played something else. What did I play? What was the first tank I played? I think it was a medium tank. But yeah, thank you very much, guys. So I was gonna go, I guess went over a lot of that subtech. I'm about to go over the article too, but you know, if you watch the beginning of the stream too, I just went through, we had 3 battles here, which thank you again, everybody that helped. I'm drawing a blank. What? 60 TP. There you go. Thanks, Istanbul. Yeah, that was it. But yeah, we just went over a lot of different scenarios and stuff, but I'll go through the article again real fast. But so like me, I might actually switch up. It's like right now I carry 8 HE. Nah, I'm just gonna keep it there. So they did buff. So let me switch to just the article here so we can kind of go over. Which I'm doing tank requests tonight, guys, so you guys can do tank requests if you'd like to. Yeah, so I'm basically, guess you guys request what you want to see. Artie, whatever. That's all I'm playing tonight. I'm gonna pause all my missions. Which I'm just pulling up the articles here. Alright, so let's do this. But yeah, if you guys have any questions exactly, you know, ask me too. So, which thanks, Dripper, for the follow. I know, freedom, you guys get to pick stuff. Alright, so HE. What did they change? So, basically before the patch here. And this is where, like, you know, I just went over a lot of this. I know some of it's repeating. But, you know, what they're doing is essentially now HE, it's applying it's like AP. Wherever you hit, it's applying the penetration roll and the damage roll. I think previously, or wait, this is just, they don't have the old stuff in here. I think that's somewhere else. Maybe. That's playing the strengths. I don't know. In any event, I'm just rolling off of this. So prior, basically, when it comes to HE, it couldn't penetrate screens. And I'm trying to find here. So to answer your question, so before, basically, when you hit a piece of armor, it drew a big sphere, basically, applied the damage and penetration to whatever the weakest armor is within that sphere, even if, like, the line of sight wasn't there. So, like, you could hit, basically, like, a round, say, onto a turret roof or something, or an engine deck. Now it's applying it like AP directly to where you hit things. You can penetrate space armor. However, what Wargaming did is any space armor you're penetrating, there's a 3x modifier, so 20 millimeters turns into 60, and it also takes into account the slope of armor, as you see here. So you don't cause any damage if you're not able to penetrate, say, a space armor or a track or something like that. So side scraping, especially in tanks that have like decent track thickness, or even those small like so like 5 millimeter side skirts that some tanks have, like they're 15 millimeters now, and then say like 20 millimeters track becomes 60, and then you have the effective armor, because tracks do gain effective armor. Basically, if you don't go through that space armor and connect with the hull, you cause nothing, no damage at all. In the old system, sometimes you did, sometimes you didn't. So small calibers wouldn't, because your blast radius wasn't large enough to reach the hull. Large calibers, like we were seeing in the FV4005, you actually would, because it's large enough to, you could hit the side of a track if someone's side scraping and cause like 600 plus damage, because it bleeds over to the engine deck. You can't do that anymore. You have to actually aim and make sure, you know, you're hitting something like tangible, like, you know, the hull or something. But HE does, it doesn't just go off of the nominal thickness anymore. It's the thickness and the slope of screens, the hull, stuff like that. So it's going off of the effective armor. So it is a change where you actually have to, you know, you have to know essentially when it comes to how thick something is. It's basically like you're shooting with AP, heat, APCR. You need to kind of think how, you know, effective something is armor-wise. And also, like, if you're shooting something with like 2 or 3, you know, layers of space armor, you know, if you're, say if your HE round has 100 millimeters of penetration, and their space armor has, say, like 90 millimeters that you're trying to punch through, you should still shoot that sometimes, because you're able to get through the space armor and cause some damage behind it, and also module damage. The screen, so it's any space armor. So 60 TP, space armor here, tracks count as space armor. So like shooting this, 1 layer space armor, 2 layers, hull. So if you penetrate, you know, this, and then hit the hull, even if you have 0 millimeters of penetration after you get through the tracks, it'll cause damage here. If you penetrate, you know, say the first layer of screen here, and then you don't penetrate the track, you cause 0 damage. 0, nothing. If you shoot like the mantlet here, some tanks, so like the 60 TP, or like, you know, I don't know specifically with this, but like some tanks hitting like near the gun, there's 0 armor behind here. So you could penetrate this, then cause damage. Other tanks, like you're shooting like 2 or 3 layers of armor here, you're going to cause nothing. Old system, so like if an FV4005 shot you, say like here, it didn't apply damage here. It applied damage here, and you basically murder the 60 TP because it's hitting like, I don't know, 30 millimeters of armor instead of like 4, 5, 600 effective armor. But so small calibers, it helps Virus, because it does help small caliber rounds, because say like the T110E5 here, your HE, 60 millimeters of effective armor. Basically, if you're shooting another E5 before, you would do like no damage anywhere here. It is able to basically cause damage now if you don't penetrate. You know, essentially, it will cause damage. However, if you're shooting the space armor, you know, the tracks and stuff, you're not able to get through, it's not going to cause anything. Getting back to this though, which HE doesn't overmatch, it doesn't bounce, it doesn't ricochet. Which, thank you, Jibber. Yeah, I'm taking a little time out here, which if you didn't catch the beginning too, we did like 3 training room battles. It might help out too. Which I'm trying to keep up on the chat too. So, I'm just looking. I don't think there's too much more here. The only difference, so, with, and I was trying to find the old basically HE Like it showed like the old stuff, but I forget. But in any event, so before, when it comes to module damage and, you know, applying the damage, stuff like that, the old HE, it would apply, you know, basically it would figure out where you penetrate. It would penetrate down here instead of up here for a high caliber. And it gave high calibers a really big advantage with causing damage with HE. Same thing with the penetration. And then when it comes to the module damage, it would basically apply it, you know, within that sphere. It does do something similar still, to where even though you're only taking like the penetration and stuff, the spalling it causes, it still does cause the spalling damage, the modules and crew within that sphere. The only difference I think they changed is with like penetrations. Like if you're penning like a cupola, you used to be able to penetrate the they changed the article here, but yeah, I forget exactly. I don't want to watch the video either. But in any event, I think, does anybody have more questions when it comes to the HE? But it's, so like when it comes to like buffs, nerfs, stuff like that, and like there obviously are other changes when it comes to you know, the game as well here. Like personally, the RD changes I'm a fan of. A lot of people, I saw some people screaming that, you know, they nerfed RD too much, which yeah. Why do I think they did this? So, and this is where some people are like, oh, well, it's mega buffing like heavy tanks and stuff like that. Like, well, I just did some training rooms, Jibber. I may use HE if it makes sense. Like, you guys can request whatever tanks you want. It's just exclamation point request, press space, type of tank in, hit enter. So, you know, if you pick a tank that uses a lot of HE and stuff, you know, I'd be happy to play that. I haven't done tank requests in a little while because I did them for years, but I've been trying to do 279A. So, like, why they did this, which, before I do that, so, like, open canopy tanks, so already didn't change. HE's still the same. Sorry. I just need to pull that down. There are tank requests, though, so that's all. Doink. So like penetrating like an open canopy and stuff, you're still penning if you, it's 0 millimeters of armor if you hit inside of that. So it's still causing the same damage and stuff like that. RD's still the same HE, where you do have splash damage. So like right now, my #1 feedback for them, which they took into account, fortunately, because the first test didn't take into account effective armor. That was my #1 thing. So that was great that they incorporated that. And then they even went further with the 3x multiplier for the track armor and stuff, space armor. However, the new HE for anything that isn't RD, if you hit here, there's no splash whatsoever. Personally, I wanted them to incorporate that. Not that it comes into play very much, but I feel like it would have been a good thing to keep just from like a common sense standpoint, I guess, you know, if they still kept it for misses, you know, but that's where removing that wasn't the biggest, you know, thing in the world, but that was one thing that I would have liked to see. But the main reason they did this, so like take the E100 here, take the mouse, is basically in, you know, tier 10, like it's been painful like playing high tiers. Like you see it mainly at tier 10 because there's a lot more tanks that can use like Hesh and like high pen HE. Mid tiers don't have as many, like there's some mediums, like everyone knows the KV2, you know, getting up to like tier 8, there's like the Chariot tier, stuff like that. But like take the mouse, a lot of people like, oh look, I can pen the mouse with a heat round or high pen round here, great. The mouse is like, oh my god, like, you know, I can't shoot, so I'm going to angle my turret. A lot of tanks, and especially high caliber, like 60 TP, FV4005, what have you. Alright, well, I'm just going to shoot an HE round right here. It's going to penetrate the engine deck of a mouse, pretty much every time, and like not only cause module damage, set you on fire, but basically it's gonna annihilate you. Like you can cause like over 1,000 damage with some tanks like your FE4005, or near 1,000 damage shooting HE by hitting the bottom piece of the turret because it splashes in here. Just for randomly shooting. You can even take some rounds and like hit here and splash down there and cause massive damage. 60 TP especially too. Like so like when it comes to your heavy tank, like people just load up HE because they just shoot you with HE. Take something like the T110E3. This tank's one trick pony. Lots of upper basically superstructure armor, low armor on the bottom, low armor on the sides and stuff. If you showed like a little piece of your armor essentially with the old HE on the side, an FE4005 or something could really wreck you hitting you here. Or it could just shoot you like here and cause, it could 6, 7, 8, 900 damage just for like hitting you right in this part here. Or even just hitting you up here and splashing down. Now you're still causing damage like in that FE, but it's not just, it's basically like there's no skill involved into it. You're actually having to think about effective armor to where, yes, you might not be causing and like penning here with a Hesh round, but you're still going to be causing 400, 500 damage and stuff for not actually penning a tank. It really it causes you to think. So like, okay, where am I going to shoot this if it's hull down and I'm in an FE4005? Where would you shoot this thing? Like if you can't shoot the lower glacis, what comes to my mind is hitting the thing right here on the flat armor. It's still thick. You're not going to penetrate it most likely, unless you get lucky and hit it on a very small piece. However, you're going to be causing a pretty good chunk of damage. You're not going to pen it and cause like 900, but causing like 500-ish, stuff like that. Whereas if you're shooting here or like the mantlet, you're going to cause like minimal 100, 200 at most damage. So it's nerfing that. And that's where like some people, okay, like this is a big nerf, to people, being able to shoot heavies and stuff. Like one good thing comes out of it is a nerf to EBRs. They nerfed not only the dispersion and on the move accuracy, they also nerfed the penetration. Like this used to be 105 millimeters, so a 30 millimeter reduction to the pen here. Awesome. And the other ones got nerfed down too, from I think 90 down to 75. But also you're able to actually penetrate the wheels here, as we saw in the training room. So great changes. People have been asking that forever. No longer are the wheels soaking up HE rounds, and it's still going to soak up heat because that's how heat works. But like people aren't going to be able to complain basically, because their complaints are going to be people missing down here. And like, oh my god, I didn't, cause damage. But if you shoot HE up here, you are causing damage to these things. So like there is basically, when it comes to lights and mediums, it's a buff and a nerf. So like, even though I keep saying like nerfs and like buffs and stuff, it's a game mechanic change to where a lot of times players have difficulty accepting them because it's different, but it's changing everything for everybody. They did do minor buffs on like T49, KB2, stuff like that. They could potentially buff them more if they deem it not to be enough. But like the main change is like, if you can't aim or you're just taking bad shots, like you're random, like, not even aiming and just clicking in a random direction, honestly, you deserve a little bit of a nerf because you're not trying. You're just using a no skill round. However, if you're aiming in, which is why they buffed the on the move accuracy, overall accuracy and stuff for those tanks, they want to get it to where it's similar to as before, because you should be able to actually pick where you're shooting a tank and get similar damage, sometimes more, sometimes less. For those saying, this is a straight up nerf to say like low armor medium tank and stuff. So say if a FE4005 shooting a leopard here, okay, before you're pretty much going to blow up and die, you know. It might not one-shot you because you do have a little bit of, you know, you have 100 HP more than the average damage. However, in the new system, okay, so like what are the benefits here for a leopard getting shot by an FE-4005 or 60 TP, you know, or E100, those big bad heavy tanks? They're not able to just lob HE at you now and just, you know, get easy pens. If they hit you around the mantlet area, they're going to be causing a lot less damage. Possibly no damage if it hits you like in a really angled piece. Most likely it's going to cause damage because the leopard, you know, is really poor armor. Popping around a corner. Say if you make the mistake and, you know, you're like, oh, I'm going to side scrape like that, you know, Unicum that I saw on Twitch, and, you know, I'm going to be a pro player. And you're trying to... I will, Wookie. Yeah, I just wanted to finish up this thought. Somebody else can pop them on if they want, though, ahead of time. So, say if you're, you know, you're pro player, I'm going to side scrape in this leopard, and FE-4005 60 TP or something's around the corner, and it has HE loaded. Old system, if it hits you here, you're going to take a crap load of damage because it's going to apply the damage to basically the thinnest piece of armor. New system, say if, you know, you just happen to have a little piece sticking out here, and it's shooting that Hesh round like in this area or even like down here, you're actually probably like, I guess there's still a chance it pens you. Very low percentage it pens you down here because the effective armor should be higher than 200 something. Might still pen you here. However, chances are instead of, you know, getting penned for that 1700 plus damage from an FV, you might take a lot less. Like you might take 600-700 or something. So it's removing, honestly, like that what the fuck gameplay, you know, for those random pot shots and stuff. And it's adding a little bit more skill and like depth to it. You know, obviously, you know, it does change. It changes a lot, but you know, it basically, the changes are kind of meant to, you know, nerf that, you know, just not trying in a sense.